night, a CIA military coup has placed a CIA-dominated military junta of U.S. puppets into power in Egypt. On the other hand, their authority is now unconstitutional. The Constitution was shredded. It should have been a succession to one person, Suleiman of the Air Force, whatever else he was. But now instead we've got this junta, the military council, attempting to exercise power, and it's clear that there are other candidates in the field. The darling of the international media, of course, is Ghonim, the Google executive, who is hailed as the Robespierre, Lenin, and Mao of this revolution all rolled into one, and he, of course, is a very nondescript little character, a little mouse of the bureaucracy there in Google, inconsequential figure, but hailed as the founder of the revolution. You've also got El Baradei. This would be the international bureaucracy. The United Nations, the IMF, the World Bank would all want El Baradei because he would be the globalization candidate. He would continue the status of Egypt as a component of the U.S. empire under slightly different auspices, probably do a lot of economic damage. And then you've got this Abu Musa, I think his name is, who is the former Egyptian diplomat, also somebody who had been the head of the Arab League. The word is that he might be the candidate of the Ikhwan, the Muslim Brotherhood. So you've got the military council, and now the opposition, the young chaotic forces of April 6th and so forth, probably now idolizing Ghonim, the globalizers, the international bureaucracy, the supranational government forces going for El Baradei, and quite possibly the Muslim Brotherhood looking at this Musa as their candidate. This won't be stable. And then again, inside the army, you may have people who resent the servility of their leaders, these generals who are now accepting to take over under clear U.S. auspices. They come into power stamped as U.S. puppets, abject creatures of imperialism, foreign agents, tools of foreign interests, and so forth. There may be some colonels in that military establishment who are already getting radicalized over the 2 weeks, who may now decide that enough is enough, and that Tantawi and General Annan are far too close to Washington, present in the Pentagon when the coup began, and then now coming in after Mubarak is forced out by God knows what threats. So unstable. It's a junta. It's an oligarchy. It's not a single dictator. The Constitution has been thrown out the window, so it's now a leap in the dark, a leap into chaos. And the scenarios are fairly obvious. Let's just go back, though, and ask ourselves, why this conflict? Because the international significance of it, I think, is very, very great. We're now closer to war with Iran than we were before. The Iranians may not see this. The Iranians may know this but not say it. They're not saying it. The Iranians are saying, well, hail the Islamic Revolution in Tunisia and in Egypt. I think the Iranians, some of them anyway, are smart enough to know that that's not what is going on here, but they're locked into that. I think now basically every existing government of whatever type is now in a state of fear of U.S. destabilization using these tools. I hope they've studied Obama, the postmodern coup, the making of a Manchurian candidate, because if they have, they will then be better able to understand what's coming after them now. Why, however, did Mubarak have to be ousted, and why now? Remember that in the wake of the Iraq debacle becoming clear in 2004-2005, the U.S. began pushing, and you heard this from Hillary Clinton, and then you heard it from Obama, the idea of extending the U.S. nuclear umbrella to various countries in the Middle East, the U.S. Close allies. The idea was that Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the Gulf states, meaning the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Oman, all those little states, typically historically British puppet states, along the coast of Saudi Arabia, in the Gulf, the Persian Gulf, the Arabian Gulf, they would be brought under U.S. nuclear protection, as would Israel. And that this would then be the creation of that Sunni Arab front, with, of course, the Israelis incongruously being a part of it, that Sunni Arab front that the U.S. has been striving to put up to play against Iran, to play against the Iranian Shiite, Hezbollah, and other related forces in the Middle East, possibly including Syria on the Iranian side, if that alliance holds up. Now, the question was, therefore, in August of 2009, who would accept the U.S. nuclear umbrella, and in so doing, tacitly accept the idea, well, you're now part of a cannon fodder front of expendable Arab puppet states that we're going to play against the Iranians, and a regional war. It's the obvious thing. If you want to control the region, if the U.S. is now too weak to control the region, then control it with creating these two blocks, these two sides, and you can then increase your influence if everybody in the region is at each other's throats. The person who took the lead in saying no to this plan was Mubarak. Mubarak, in August 2008, is an Egyptian newspaper that was then quoted by various Israeli sources, that Mubarak had said, no, I reject your nuclear umbrella, because this would involve a complete normalization with the Israelis, which Mubarak didn't want to do in that form. He said, and I imagine now he's saying, behind the scenes, I have Egyptian issues with the Israelis. I've got to iron those out. Don't tell me to get into your one-size-fits-all nuclear umbrella anti-Iranian alliance. What do I have to gain from this? He had nothing to gain. Remember, Mubarak's principle was Mubarak was interested in Mubarak. He was not interested in any change in the status quo that did not benefit Egypt and or Mubarak. And certainly the U.S. nuclear umbrella of 2009 was one of those. So he said, this is a bribe to the Israelis. I'm not going to go for it. And then, to make matters worse for the U.S., along comes Saudi Arabia saying, yeah, well, if Mubarak can say no, then we can say no too. So both of the main countries that would be absolutely indispensable for a Sunni Arab front, Egypt and Saudi Arabia, both say, no, we're not interested in hooking up a front, an alliance against the Iranians under U.S. nuclear protection auspices. So that's a really important area. Now, if you take this a little bit further, now that we have the military junta controlled by the CIA, will that military junta with Tantawi and Annan, will they accept the U.S. nuclear umbrella? Will they accept participation in a U.S.-backed Arab Sunni front against the Iranians with the participation of Israel? I think that is a really big, explosive question. That is, in certain ways, internationally the one to watch. Will Egypt accept the role of being the spear point, the expendable kamikaze puppet to be used against Iran? With Mubarak, you could say they were a puppet. Even that, I think, is an exaggeration. But a kamikaze puppet, they were not. And Mubarak was in a position to say, look, I'm the entrenched dictator of Egypt. You guys get lost. I'm not interested in your crazy utopian crackpot plans for reorganizing the Middle East. Another example, the question of the fate of Lebanon. The U.S. notoriously has hooked up this United Nations Commission, and this goes back to 2005, the assassination of Hariri. And the attempt by the U.S. has always been pin this on Hezbollah. Well, unfortunately, there's no proof. What do you do then? You create a kangaroo court inside the United Nations, stack it full of U.S. agents, and deliver an indictment of Hezbollah. And that Mubarak was not interested in following. Back in a minute on World Crisis Radio.